In 1996, a jogger discovered an old-style board game buried in the sand on the beach. He took it home and gave it to his teenage son, Alex. Alex didn't seem very interested at first, probably because board games were no longer popular. He left the game behind and turned to his video game console instead. However, that night, something strange occurred in Alex's room. He was awakened by a green flashing light and the sound of drums. Following the sound, he found the board game had transformed into a video game. Intrigued, Alex decided to put the game into his console, and a blinding flash of green light emitted from his room. Jumping ahead 20 years, Spencer is engrossed in playing video games alone in his room. He's clearly skilled and easily completes the game. But when his mom calls out to him, he quickly switches to his computer, giving the impression that he's been working all along. She reminds him that the world can be a scary place, and Spencer seems to agree. Meanwhile, across town, Fridge, a star athlete, is getting ready for school. He mentions to his mom that he's meeting up with Spencer first, who has been helping him improve his grades through tutoring. Bethany appears to be surprised that Spencer and Fridge are still hanging out, but her main concern is their grades. She suggests that Fridge's grades are so bad he might get kicked off the football team. Fridge reassures her that everything is fine. Bethany seems to project a picture-perfect life on social media, spending time getting the perfect Instagram photo, even though it's staged to look candid. Spencer and Fridge meet outside an abandoned house known as the Freak House. Fridge notices Spencer wearing a raincoat, despite the absence of rain. Spencer suddenly panics when he sees a squirrel, which leaves Fridge feeling uneasy and wanting to get their meeting over with. Spencer had written an essay for Fridge, which earned him an A, and Fridge is grateful. However, when it's time for Spencer to accompany Fridge to school, he turns him down with an obvious lie. They used to be best friends, but that's no longer the case. Before Spencer can leave, the owner of the Freak House comes out and offers Spencer a dire warning about the harsh realities of the world, indicating that he's mentally unstable. In a classroom, Bethany is supposed to be taking a test but is more preoccupied with her phone and a boy not liking her photo on social media. She's oblivious to the fact that she's distracting others in her class, and her teacher gives her detention. During gym class, Martha doesn't want to participate and comes across as a loner. When the gym teacher tries to encourage her, Martha ends up insulting the teacher and the teaching profession, resulting in her receiving detention as well. Detention begins with their teacher lecturing them on personality and the importance of self-discovery. They're assigned the tedious task of removing staples from 1,000 magazines, with the warning that it must be completed by the next day. This annoys everyone except Spencer, who seems unfazed. In the detention room, Bethany plays on her phone, while Fridge and Spencer explore the piles of junk. They stumble upon an old video game, Jumanji, and decide to play it on the TV. The game has an eerie quality to it. Fridge and Spencer select characters, and Bethany eventually joins them to escape the staple-removing task, albeit reluctantly. When they start the game, strange things begin to happen. Loud drums beat in the room, the console sparks and turns green, and Spencer tries to unplug it but fails. Suddenly, Spencer gets sucked into the game, and the others scream as they share the same fate. They find themselves transformed into different characters within the Jumanji world. It doesn't take long for these four random people to realize their new identities as the kids from detention. Spencer is the first to figure it out, now inhabiting the body of Dr. Bravestone. He explains that they are inside the game, with the avatars they had previously chosen. Fridge is Franklin Mouse, Martha is Ruby Roundhouse, and Bethany is Professor Sheldon, an overweight scientist. They take a moment to process this strange situation, with Bethany thinking they might be in a coma, while Spencer and the others don't agree. However, as Bethany tries to argue her point, a hippopotamus suddenly appears and attacks her, resulting in her death. But then, she falls from the sky, seemingly unharmed. This makes them realize that this situation might be real. Before they can make sense of things, the hippopotamus returns, and they run for their lives. Luckily, a jeep appears, driven by a man named Nigel, who seems to know who they are. He explains they're in Jumanji, which is cursed, and they're the only ones who can lift the curse. Their questions are met with scripted responses, and Nigel provides them with information about their mission through a flashback. They learn that Professor Russell Van Pelt, Dr. Bravestone's old partner, became obsessed with the sacred jewel of Jumanji and caused a dark power to consume him, giving him control over the creatures of Jumanji. Nigel managed to steal the jewel from Van Pelt, but it's now up to the 4 players to return it to its resting place and lift the curse. Nigel gives them a verse to guide them. After Nigel drops them off, the characters are on their own, trying to understand their new identities. Spencer, now Bravestone, is a hero despite being a coward in real life. Fridge, once an athlete, is now in the body of a tiny person. Martha, the shy nerd, finds herself in the body of a strong, independent woman. Ruby Roundhouse, and Bethany, a self-obsessed poser, is in the body of an overweight, unattractive man, Professor Sheldon. Spencer takes charge, explaining that if they complete the game and place the jewel where it belongs, they'll return to their normal lives. However, the task won't be easy. Their first stop is a bazaar, and they quickly realize that only Bethany, or Professor Sheldon, can read the map. Each of them possesses unique abilities. Spencer is brave, Ruby Roundhouse can fight, Franklin Mouse is a zoologist, and Professor Sheldon can read the map. Before they can proceed, they hear approaching motorbikes with armed men, chasing them. A thrilling chase ensues, with rockets and bullets flying. Spencer and Martha showcase their newfound abilities, but Fridge struggles to keep up, and Spencer has to carry him. They reach a cliff and leap into a river to escape the attackers. Martha is shot and dies but mysteriously reappears. Now they realize that each of them has 3 lives, and losing all of them means it's game over. Meanwhile, Van Pelt, who's after them, sends more creatures to track them down. As they head toward the bazaar, Bethany and Martha start to bond, but Spencer and Fridge argue. Fridge blames Spencer for their predicament, and Spencer blames Fridge for thinking he's too cool. Their argument escalates, and Fridge pushes Spencer off a cliff, killing him. However, Spencer points out that they can't survive on their own, and they need each other to navigate this game. They arrive at the bazaar with a single clue to find a missing piece of the map. This leads them to a room with a viper in a basket. Working together, they manage to retrieve the missing piece. Unfortunately, the piece is just a statue of an elephant with another riddle. They're soon surrounded by Van Pelt's men, and a fight ensues. Just when things seem dire, a cloaked figure saves them with a smoke bomb and leads them to safety through the sewers. Their savior, Jefferson, Seaplane, McDonough, reveals that he's also stuck in the game. He takes them to a secret hideout, explaining he's been there for a while but doesn't know how long. Bethany realizes Seaplane is the missing piece they needed, giving them a better chance at completing the game. The next level involves a hangar guarded by armed men, and they need to reach a helicopter inside. They send Martha to distract the guards, and she uses dance fighting to defeat them. Seaplane's lingo suggests he's from a different era, and they discover he's actually Alex Vreek, the teenager who disappeared 20 years ago. Spencer admits to Fridge that he has a crush on Martha. While escaping, they encounter a stampede of rhinos, causing Fridge to drop the jewel. They return to retrieve it, and Spencer throws Fridge out of the helicopter to distract the rhinos. Miraculously, they manage to grab the jewel and make it through the level. They reach their final destination, the statue of the jaguar, where they must return the sacred jewel. Bethany sacrifices one of her lives to save Alex from a mosquito bite, and Spencer and Martha share an awkward first kiss. Spencer, now on a motorbike, heads toward the jewel's resting place. Bethany, holding the jewel, faces cobras but vanishes and hands the jewel to Spencer midair. He places it in the statue's resting place and cries out, "Jumanji," instantly reversing the game's effects. Nigel congratulates them, promising to return them home. Back in the real world, they realize Alex isn't with them. They find Alex as an adult in the freak house, waiting for their return. The adventure has changed them all, making them true friends with newfound qualities. To prevent the game from causing more trouble, they take the video game into an alley and smash it into a million pieces.